All right, everybody, today is the day. I am excited to introduce the new Tikka series. My plan is to take a Tikka build from the gun store and walk you through the process of how I'm going to turn it into a precision long-range hunting rifle. So, how am I going to do that? I'm going to take this stock Tikka and I'm going to put some bare bone parts on it. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot some test groups with some popular hunting ammo. And then I'm going to make some slight upgrades. And then I'm going to go shoot those same groups, showing the benefits of making some slight upgrades. Then I'm going to put some premium upgrades on it, and I'm going to go shoot those base groups again and show the benefits of those upgrades. And this will all lead up to me taking this rifle on a deer hunt at the end of this year and hopefully having success through that. My intent is to show you how easy it is to do this. It's not intimidating, and just with some basic knowledge, you too can upgrade your stock rifle that you may already have sitting around to something that could really benefit you for your hunting season or for a precision long range build. All right, so let's take a look at this rifle. Here I have a Tikka T3X, the Superlite edition, chambered in 7mm mag. Superlite, it's got a hollow stock, fluted barrel, and it's coming in at a base weight of 5.5 pounds. Really light. I like that, but in a Magnum cartridge, we might pay a little bit on the recoil. This rifle comes out of the box with no scope base, so what I have done is I've picked up a very reputable company, someone who I always trust in, Area 419. They sell a Tikka T3 20 MOA base that I will be putting on here in just a moment. For the scope base, I'm going to put some rings on there. So I grabbed a couple different heights of Vortex precision rings. I got medium high, extra high. I got a pro bubble level from Vortex. I'm going to be putting on this Strike Eagle. It is a 5-25 by 56. It is relatively inexpensive, but the features that you get for this is really good. You get lockable turrets, you get a first focal plane, you get a nice reticle that I've come to love, and it's got all the features I want, and without the price tag I don't want. So this will be my starter scope for this build. I'm going to shoot those entry groups with it, but then eventually I'll be moving up to something lighter than this. I think that this is almost 2 pounds by itself with no rings or anything on it. So I'm going to try and lighten that up just a little bit with a Vortex Razor LHT. That's my favorite go-to hunting scope because it is so light. Eventually, we're going to take it out of this plastic stock. Plastic stocks tend to bend and warp under recoil, so we want something more rigid, but I want to keep it lightweight. So what I did was I picked up this Outlier chassis. This Outlier chassis has a pretty cool feature where you can unscrew these screws and remove the forend. You can put in something longer or shorter, however you want it. I got the shortest one to keep it lightweight. You can put any kind of AR compatible buttstock on there. So I just went into my garage and found the most simplest form that I could and stuck it on here. Same with the pistol grip. I found just some extra Magpul pistol grip that I had laying around, and I was able to assemble a rifle chassis. Super inexpensive. I got this for under 200 bucks, and it's provides me the rigidity I need and makes my rifle have a larger external capacity magazine. So I'm really stoked about this. It seems to be a real quality product. So eventually I will be upgrading this plastic stock and going to that Outlier chassis. All right, now that you know what I've got for this build, I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to put it together. Super simple. All you'll need is a simple torque wrench and some bits. I'm going to be using Fitsit sticks. I really like their setup and how easy it is, and it comes in all one little toolkit. So I'm gonna grab those and I'll meet you back at the bench. All right, first thing we're gonna do is mount our scope base. Now the Tikka has some thread protectors in these holes up top here that I'll admit are really tough to get out. First, I tried backing them out and I couldn't get them out. So what I ended up having to do, since they're plastic, is I pulled the bolt to the rear and I pushed them actually down into the chamber. So if you can get them out, good luck. That'd be easier, but I was unable to remove them by screwing them out, so I pushed them through. They're plastic, you're not gonna hurt the threads or anything like that. That's just what I had to do. The next thing we're gonna do is grab our scope base, and the Area 419 rail comes with a little recoil lug stop here. I simply put it in there and pushed it as hard as I could, and then I mate it up to its spot here on the rail and make sure that it's flat. Now, me personally, when I'm gonna put these screws in here, I don't ever want these screws to come loose, so I'm going to use red Loctite on all 4 of these base screws. That is completely optional for you. Fix-It-Stitz, Area 419 recommends 15 inch-pounds for your base screws. I'm gonna tighten them down little bit by little bit. So first, finger tight. All right. And then I'm gonna tighten it down in 5 inch-pounds per screw. Just to get a good even bite across the top. Now I'm gonna finish with 15. I really recommend you using a torque wrench for this, because the threads are really fine, and if you mess it up, go too tight, you have to send your action in and they have to send you a new one. And if you'd like to know why, it's because I did that. 15. All right. Now that we have our scope base on our rifle, now we need to mount our scope. And the first thing we need to decide is what is the right ring height for our scope. So this is how I go about it. First thing I'll do is I'll take a micrometer and I'll measure the width of my objective lens. So I'll measure it just like this and I'll get an answer. This is 2.52 wide. I'm going to cut that in half and it gives me 1.26. Why it's in half? Because I'm only concerned about how close this objective bell gets to my barrel. I don't worry about how high it is. I just want it to not touch my barrel here in its widest point. So I take that 1.26 and then I'm going to select a ring height. I have medium plus, high, and extra high. And all these rings will have an associated number for it, telling you how high it's going to bring the center of the scope off of your scope base. So first, these medium plus, they will raise my scope 1.1 inches high. So I'm going to take that number that I got, 1.26, I'm going to subtract 1.1 from it, so that gives me a 0.16. Then I'm going to take my micrometer and I'm going to measure how high this scope base comes off of my action. Just like that. And that is going to be 0.20. So I'm going to add that 0.16 to the 0.20 and get a 0.36. So I'm going to find 0.36. and I'm gonna lock it down, and I'll show you how we're gonna, if that math is good later. I've already done the math. I know that these medium ring heights are going to be perfect, and it's going to provide me enough height off of my cheek piece so that I don't have to crunch my head down to get close to seeing. One of the old adages was try and get the scope of your objective lens as close as you can to the barrel. We're no longer doing that. It doesn't matter how high your scope rings are, as long as you're not having to cock your face down to look behind it. So you want to shoot from a nice head up position in a neutral hold. So try, if medium rings, high rings allow you to do that, go with higher. All right, so first, I'm not going to worry about eye relief for this video or how to level, because I'll get in that in another video. Right now, I'm just gonna show you how to mount it. Just gonna finger tight these. Okay, take your scope, lay it in the rings, and if you can see this, that scope has clearance over the barrel. And that math that we got, that 0.36, is going to be that height above the barrel. Okay, I'm going to take the top of my rings, put it in there, and I'm not going to torque this down. I'm just going to try and tighten it down a little bit, trying to get equal gaps on both sides of the scope here. So I tighten it down, 1, 2, 1, 2. I try and do it the same amount of turns per screw. All right, I'm starting to feel them cinch tight. I'm going to till they stop, and then I'm going to back it out a quarter turn because I still want the scope to move in these mounts. All right, they're all tight. I'm going to back those out. And you can see I can still move that scope with ease. So now I've got my scope in my rings. I know that the rings are tall enough so that my scope objective lens clears my barrel and pushes my scope off of the scope base enough to properly align my head behind it. Now I'm going to go down to getting proper eye relief and leveling my scope. All right, next thing we need to do is establish eye relief and level our scope. I've already established my eye relief for this one, but I'll walk you through the process. With your scope, loosen the rings, get behind your rifle, and make sure that your butt stock is medial and on your collarbone. Then look through your scope at its maximum power. We put it at maximum power because that's stressing the capabilities of the rifle scope, and that's where it's in its most sensitive position in the eye box. You're going to look through that, and you're going to move your scope forward and back until you have a complete clear sight picture in your scope. This Badger dead level simulates the top scope base on your action. So if you don't want to go purchase a Badger dead level, you can put a level on the top of your scope base and level your rifle, and then just mount your scope to your rifle, achieving the same effects here. Once the scope rings are tightened down to this Badger dead level, I then will remove the top cap of this scope. Once I've removed the scope cap, I'm going to place a level across the top of the scope. Now, depending on your scope manufacturer, these might not be milled to spec. I would not complete my leveling process here. I always get a rough 80–90% solution here and then refine off a plumb bob later. But for right now, this will do. I move it in the rings until my level is saying I'm level. And at this point, if I usually do this in my garage where I have a plumb bob hung. So once I'm at this stage, I would look through the scope and make sure that it's aligned with my plumb bob. Remove this level. Get my fix-it sticks, and then I would tighten down the tops of these rings to Vortex's recommended torque settings, which is 18 pounds. So I'm going to start tightening them down until they're all just finger tight. And if you notice, I use a star tightening pattern. And then I go down in 5 inch-pound increments. And I do it for a reason. I have found that if I tighten one side first, the scope will kind of rotate towards that direction. So I want to tighten it down in a star pattern, just ever so slightly, in 5 inch-pounds each. So those rings clamp down evenly and I don't get that twisting of the scope, and it remains level throughout the process. So I'm going to continue to tighten these down in 5 inch-pound increments in the star pattern. Those are all at 10. Go to 15. 15, and then I'll finish off with 18. All right, those are all at 18. Like I said, I verify this off a plumb bob, and then I will now mount this to my rifle. Now we're on the last step where we mount our scope to our scope base on our rifle. First, we're gonna need to know the torque spec settings for the base of the rings. And so I always refer to my manufacturer's packaging or their website, where this will say the cap screws are at 18 inch-pounds, which we already did, and the base screw, which will be 45 to 50 inch-pounds. So I'm going to mount this where I had previously set up my eye relief on this rail, and I'm going to keep the same trend going of just going finger tight on all the screws before I start to tighten them down. And then I'm going to tighten it down in 10 inch-pound increments. And we're going to end at 45. And that's it. Our scope is mounted to our rifle and we're ready to hit the range. All right, now that we've got the scope mounted, we are looking at the Tikka in its final form. I've added a few more accessories to this scope that I think are necessary. And that being a bubble level. Having your level scope while shooting long range is crucial. So I've added a Vortex Pro bubble level on here. It's low profile, small, but still effective. I've also added a throw lever to my magnification ring. With the Strike Eagle scope, the throw lever comes with it, so there's no need to purchase an additional throw lever. This is really good quality. I've had several different throw levers, and I usually always come back to the one Vortex makes. I've added a Harris bipod. I think Harris provides the great blend of quality versus price, so I won't go any lower quality than a Harris. So I threw on I think it's a 6 to 9 bipod on there to provide me the minimum level of support that I need to employ this hunting rifle effectively. The next step in this build is taking it to the range. We're gonna select a few popular hunting rounds and take it out to the range and see different group sizes, how it shoots, what's most effective, and then we're gonna use that round, those base groups, as kind of a control for the rest of the series. After we're done shooting those control groups, we're then going to add a couple budget-friendly upgrades, which is gonna be a muzzle brake and changing out this plastic stock. Then we're gonna shoot those same groups again and see what kind of accuracy we can squeeze out of those budget upgrades. Once we've established that, then we're gonna go into our higher end upgrades. I'm gonna put a proof barrel on here. I'm gonna switch out the scope to a lighter scope, to the Vortex Razor LHT. And then we're going to reshoot those groups and see what kind of accuracy we can achieve then with the quality upgrades. And then that will take us into hunting season. And I will establish a max effective hunting range with the data that we've collected from the range and our chronograph. And then I'll take it out hunting. Hopefully end this series with a successful deer hunt, and then post-shot analysis, how the rifle performed in the field, the terminal ballistics from the upgraded 7 PRC over the 7mm mag. So I'm excited. I've been wanting a 7 PRC for a while, so I'm excited I finally got this project going. Thanks for everyone that's helped getting this all together. The next step is field time, so I'll see you at the range.